for better days to come and carry us like wind in our sails. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore. 7 years now on this boat, and we all know where we belong. Just wait. For our home to show on the horizon, soon we'll be there. Hold on tight, I can smell the shore, it's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore when we can't read the sky. We just sail with the wind that we've got, and when we're drowning in doubt, just keep on.
Hi everybody, you're all very welcome to episode 25, I think it is, of the Fraochknits podcast. My name is Anya, if you haven't been here before, and I'm coming to you from the west of Ireland, and where I live and knit and work, and just really love being here. If you haven't been here before, you're really welcome. If you're a first-time viewer, and for those returning viewers, you're of course all really welcome back, and it's lovely to see you and be with you and spend time with you knitting today. Talking about knitting rather. So this podcast is predominantly a knitting podcast. I do sometimes talk about sewing, and I also I have a section on Irish cultural heritage, I suppose you could call it, which really is looking at the importance of trees in our culture, and plants, wild plants, and the Irish language, and also particularly the Ogham script, which was used to an early writing script for the Irish language. And this month, I'll be looking at the fourth instalment, I think, in that we'll be looking at the vowels, 5 of them. So, so you're all really welcome. It's been 5 weeks, I think, since I last put out a podcast, so this is really overdue, and I'm just really looking forward to sharing all I've been doing. I was a bit, I suppose, with the month of October, it tends to be a really busy month for me with work, and I did the MKAL this year, even though I wasn't the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. This year, the Shawl Knit Along, even though I wasn't planning to do it. So actually, I sort of put myself under a bit of pressure, even though I love it, but sometimes it's just a little bit too much. So I think I felt a bit burnt out after that, and felt last week that I didn't really have a lot to show you in terms of what I was knitting. I had that as a finished object. I had 1 or 2 things on the needles, but really I felt I didn't have enough to warrant putting out a podcast. So this year I actually have loads, probably too much to talk about. Anyway, it's lovely to be here with you. I hope you're all sitting comfortably, relaxing, have a nice hot drink. I have a coffee with me today. This is my morning coffee. It's Sunday morning here. The weather is really gloomy out. It's started to rain. It hasn't been raining for a while here, and so it's a really nice morning to just sit inside and spend time with you all. So that's my morning coffee. So the other thing I wanted to say quickly is thank you so much to everybody who has engaged with my videos and liked and subscribed, and if you haven't done so already, think about clicking the subscribe button if you want to see more of these videos. And thank you so much as well to anybody who's contributed on Kofi. I have a link down below if you want to buy me a coffee. I'd love that if you feel so inclined. So just to start then with my finished objects. No, actually I was going to say what I'm wearing. I forgot to talk about what I was wearing on one of my podcasts because it wasn't a jumper that I just finished, and loads of people were, you know, commenting saying why didn't you tell us? Please let us know what you're wearing. So they were curious to know. So this one is one that I finished a good while ago. I did knit it this year. I can't remember when I actually finished it. A couple of months ago, and it's called the Harlo V-neck sweater, and it's by Knits. And so the reason I'm wearing this today is because actually it has become one of my go-to sweaters to wear. I absolutely adore it. I love the colour. I love the really bright green striking colour. It goes really well with navy, actually, with jeans. I love the white shirt underneath it. Today I'm wearing my yoga pants black, so it goes with anything really. And it is really lightweight. I knit it at, I was just going back over my notes actually to see what needle size I used and what actual size I chose. So I chose an extra large. I have a 42-inch bust, so this works out at, I haven't actually measured it, but it should have come out at around 51.25 inches, which I think it probably did. I think I did get the gauge on it. So the 19 stitch gauge per 4 inches, and I used a 4mm needle, and I used the yarns are 2 yarns held together, round yarn in the colour 4130, which is a sort of a dark forest green, and I used Biche Bouche silk, the Petite silk mohair, and that is that was in the colour medium green, which is like a really beautiful apple green colour, which I absolutely adore the colour of. And so these two held together gave me this absolutely beautiful, warm and lightweight, but really woolly looking rustic fabric. And so I have about 10 inches of positive ease, which in the beginning when I knit this first I thought, oh, it's a bit too sloppy and big and I don't know if I really like it. And actually I just adore it. I've worn it so much and I've had people commenting on it. So it's just I just love it. It's a really successful piece. I think sometimes when you finish knitting something you're too close to it to realise, you know, maybe it's if it works or not for you, and it's only as time passes and you realise you keep picking it up to put it on, and you realise that it works in your life and for your lifestyle and your wardrobe. Yeah, so that's my first not finished object, but what I'm wearing. In terms of finished objects then, oh yeah, I've just realised I cast this on in April actually, and probably finished it sometime in the summer. I can't remember exactly when. So anyway, it's a 2024 sweater. So it's still very much top of the list when I go to pick up a sweater. Finished objects then, I'm going to actually not divide finished objects and works in progress today because I have, you'll see why in a minute, I'm actually doing a second version of 2 projects, which is really unusual for me, but I'll tell you why now in a second. So the first finished object is this one here, which you will all recognise as the very famous shawl from Stephen West. So this is my Goga Dynamo shawl, which I have to say I'm really proud of. I absolutely love the finished object, in spite of being worried several times while I was knitting it that I didn't like the colours. So I have woven in most of the ends, but as you can see some of them are still hanging loose there. I have blocked this today only using the steam blocking technique, and I actually am beginning to find that I prefer doing that for, especially in the winter time. It's okay in the summertime when we might actually get a warm enough and a sunny enough day to dry knitwear quickly. I don't really have anywhere in the house that I can spread something this big out and leave it to dry, and I don't have a very dry environment in my house either. I have an old cottage which still needs more work to be done to it to improve the amount of moisture in the air in the cottage. It's there's more work to be done there, so really it is not a place for drying garments that are heavily, you know, full of saturated with water. and wool particularly. So I found that steam blocking is a brilliant alternative, and it has worked really, really well. So I just did this morning, where I get a wet tea towel and I place it on top of the shawl, which is on the ironing board, and I put the iron to the wool temperature and I iron on top of the wet tea towel, and it creates steam, and the feel of the yarn, the feel of the wool, after I tried a section of it and I felt the texture of it. It's completely different after you've done it. I mean, the wool really does relax, the yarn relaxes down, without having to completely saturate it. So yeah, this is my Go Dynamo shawl. It is it's a brilliant pattern. I really enjoyed doing it. Stephen West really did make a fantastic mystery knit along this year, and I really loved every minute of knitting this, I have to say. And what I really liked as well was the fact that I used my yarn that was left over from last year, or at least that I reused from frogging my what was the name of the one last year? Geogradient, which I tried to like but didn't. That was one of those projects where I thought, oh yeah, maybe this is okay, maybe I really like it, and a lot of people said they liked it when I wore it on my podcast, and it went into my drawer in my room and I never picked it out. I picked it out once or twice and put it on and thought, I actually don't really like this, you know. So I mean, I didn't really like the stitch patterns, and I didn't like, it was quite jaggedy edged, you know, hard lines, and I really much prefer all of these lovely curves that we have this year. So yeah, that's what I did. I frogged it, which I've got better at doing actually, at just taking out a sweater. If I don't like it, just get rid of it. Or it's not just a sweater, any yarn, any knit. So this one is knit from literally, I didn't even, because I would have used, I know there were four yarn colours called for, 4 skeins of yarn called for last year in the Geogradient, and I actually used 6. I had 6 colours, and so I didn't use didn't use very much of each skein, but then I did include some of the leftovers in the yarn advent that I sent to my friend in the Netherlands, Stamatia, and so the amounts were reduced. I think I had about 60 grams though of most of the yarns from that shawl. So yeah, I would have lost some in the process of knitting it, because those the way that shawl was knit, we were cutting the yarn, you know, into very short pieces at different times in the project. And I couldn't undo one of the stitches in the wings, whatever they're called, I forget now, the slip stitch sections. I couldn't undo them, they was too awkward. So I ended up with about 60 grams, but as you can see, I was able to get, so I think this brown colour is called a terracotta, and I had 60 grams of that, and I had 60 grams of the Baroque, which is a sort of more bluey, purpley shade. And so that covered from the beginning. So this project was started here and worked down, and then you went back up to here to join at the top to finish the top half, at the top small section at the top. Yeah, so I had to rethink what I was going to do up there. So the whole way along I was thinking, how am I going to get through? Am I going to actually, and there was I'm going to have enough yarn, there was a real case of yarn chicken in these gorgeous chevron section at the end here, where I literally had 30 grams left, I think, of this purpley shade, the Baroque shade before. By the way, sorry, it's Life in the Long Grass. I should have told you that at the beginning. It's Life in the Long Grass, one of my favourite yarns, and it's all merino singles. That's actually for the grid, or for the main colour, for the contrasting colour, it's Fine Leaf Fibres, and the name of that is that sort of lovely reddy yellowy is Maple Leaves. So beautiful, beautiful yarn dyer as well. Both based, I think, in County Cork. I know Fine Leaf Fibres is, and I know that Life in the Long Grass is, and I think that Fine Leaf Fibres is as well. But I literally had 30 grams left of the Halcyon, is it? No, Baroque. And I made it. So the 20 chevrons or triangles or whatever you call them, it was 30 grams was enough, which is actually incredible to think. You think that you need an awful lot more than you do. I opted not to do the extra end piece on this with the wavy lines because I just didn't like the look of it, and also I was tired. I'd had enough of knitting, and the other reason was I started a second one. So I'm going to show you, that's why I'm doing the whips and the finished objects at the same time. If I could find where I have put the other one. Okay, oh yeah, here it is beside me. I thought I had everything together. There's so many bits surrounding me. Yeah, so, and you saw this I think in the last podcast, and I'm not sure if I've made much progress since then. But this is the, oh, I actually have made a bit of progress. I think the last time I only had the clue 1 started, whereas I'm now halfway through. I've finished clue 1, I've put all those little rainbows together, and I'm on to clue 2. And I absolutely adore the colours in this. There's something about blue at the moment with me. I'm not somebody who wears a lot of blue really. Although it does suit me as a colour, and I'm starting to really be drawn to buying blue yarn. Anytime I see yarn now I want to buy the blue shades. So blues and purples. So this is the, I can't really stretch it out because as you know this is such a long shawl, but that's it there. So the colours, again this is Life in the Long Grass, and I bought a summer set which had these two colours, the blue and the sort of variegated purpley peachy shade. And then for the, what's this called again, the brioche section, I'm using a silk mohair which I had picked up during the summer in Bantry Yarns. So these are all in Cork actually. I mean, Cork is a really good place to live in Ireland if you're a knitter, because you've got, you know, Vibes and Scribes in Cork city centre, you've got Life in the Long Grass, you've got what else, Bantry Yarn Shop, which is a beautiful little yarn shop in the town of Bantry in West Cork, which I always love to visit when I'm down there. You've got Hedgehog Fibres also in Cork. I called into them actually last Christmas, but they were closed over the Christmas period, so I didn't get to look at their yarn in their shop that time, unfortunately. Who else is there? And finally Fibres, actually, I think they're based down there as well. So many brilliant Irish yarn dyers in Cork. And I have a brother who lives in Cork, so I do visit. It's a lovely part of the country. So yeah, this is where I'm at with the second Go-Go Dynamo. So this is actually incredible that I've decided to knit a second mystery knit along, and it really is a testament to the pattern and the design of it, that it just really caught my imagination. I really love it. And I was finding that these colours, which I do really, really like, were a bit heavy, or a bit, you know, yeah, just a bit heavy. I wanted something lighter. I was looking, even though it was autumn, I just really felt I need something brighter in my life, and that's why I went for this, these colours. And I didn't get to use silk mohair in this one because I didn't have any that went with these colours, and actually the texture is so adorable just feeling it now. The silk mohair, and I'm using one strand in the brioche, one strand of the silk mohair, so little goes an awfully long way, and gives this really lightweight shawl as well, so it gives a really lightweight finished product. So that's the Go-Go Dynamo shawl by Stephen West, and I am continuing to knit my second version of that. So a very successful pattern altogether. You going yet? Good girl. Or good boy rather. Hi again everyone, and I was talking to you there about the Go-Go Dynamo shawl, and I completely forgot to tell you something that's glaringly obviously different about my shawl compared to everybody else's. I'll take it off again so that you can see. You will notice that in this section up here, I meant to say that I used Pearl Soho's Linen Quill for the top section, with the rest of it is Life in the Long Grass, different colours, and the yellow is the fine leaf fibres. But what I should have told you about this is that these sections here, which I use the bubbles in, should be bobbles and bubbles. The bobble section I was finding, because I didn't have silk mohair to hold double with the fine leaf fibres, which is my contrasting colour, I was finding that it's a 75-25 merino nylon wool yarn, and it was actually working out that the bubbles were tiny. They didn't look well. I just thought they weren't big enough, or they didn't stand out enough. And I wasn't sure either about the design. I just thought everything is really big down here, all these lovely graphic, large sort of scale patterns, and then all of a sudden at the top everything gets a little bit sort of like fine lines, and I wanted something a little bit more bold. And also because I mean that works very well in the design in terms of if you're just using two colours, whereas I have all of these different colours, and I wasn't using any of the colours up here that matched down here apart from the maple leaves fine leaf fibres colour. So I felt that it needed something more stronger in the design to hold it together. In other words, to make it look like this top half belonged to the lower half of the shawl. So I chose to make a bold move, I suppose, and just do the bubbles. I loved the bubbles. I found them really easy to do. I found them much easier to do than the bubbles. The bubbles were a pain. I had a bit of a pain now, to be honest with you. So I just thought I'd show you that again so you can see the change I made, and I think it worked out really, really well. I absolutely love this sort of almost like Greek key motif, or it's a beautiful geometric motif. I know that it's called triangles in the pattern, and it depends, I suppose, on how tight your gauge is, whether it looks like triangles or whether it looks like this sort of these squares, oblongs. Anyway, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. It's always gorgeous either way. You'll notice as well that this edge is actually quite tight, and I'm not sure how to change that, or if that's just the nature of a slip stitch I-cord edge. And I also chose in this section here to carry my yarn through instead of having all these ends. So I carried the contrasting colour through the I-cord of the main colour, and I think what ended up happening there is that even though I was being really careful to make sure that it was stretched out when I was going through the I-cord, I find that actually this is flipping up a bit sometimes because it's a little bit tight. So I don't know, maybe I should have done the hard way of doing all of the making all of the loose ends that you cut the yarn every time you finish one of these little triangles. Oh, the other change I made, I'm just remembering, it's a while ago since I finished this, so it's not fresh in my mind, and I did write some notes before I started, but it's still all just coming back to me now. With these chevrons, this was one of my favourite parts actually of the shawl. I know people found it a little bit tedious. I found it in the end really satisfying, and but at the beginning I didn't like it at all, and that's because I was doing the wrap and turn short rows, which I found really hard to get my head around, and I think it's because I'm so used to using German short rows now, and I think the German short rows look better, and they were easier to memorise, so I was able to memorise the pattern more easily using them, and I think they're flatter, they lie a bit flatter, and luckily I didn't count my stitches like a lot of people did to make sure that I was, you know, incorporating enough of the edge stitches so that I wouldn't run out of space, or I had the right number of chevrons, and amazingly it worked out. I think I was 3 stitches out or something at the end, so I was able to either, I think I had to knit a few together or something. I think I had too many stitches, but only by about 3. So I have the right number of chevrons. I have 18 or 19 and 20. 19 of the contrasting colour and 20 of the main colour. I love the brioche, absolutely beautiful. Thing about the brioche though, it's much stretchier than the bind off. So just a few little issues with tightness on the bind off, which I was trying to stretch earlier, and maybe if I did block it out completely by wetting it, it might actually help it. And I love the Pearl Soho linen quill, which gives these sort of splashes of colour throughout the shawl. So all in all, I'm absolutely delighted with this, and I will definitely get wear out of it. It's definitely something I will wear Yeah, so I think I've remembered to tell you everything there now about that epic project. So I was a bit exhausted actually after knitting that, and after starting a second one as well. And I really was craving doing something simple and something small and something that was completely new. So I made a hat. So this was my next cast on after the shawl, and it's a real indication of like looking for something that is dead simple, and you're not going to have to worry too much about swatching and sizing, because you'll recognise this as the Musselburgh hat. I mean, this is the most amazing pattern in the world, and I know I'm so surprised to even hear myself say that, because when I saw people knitting it, I thought, yeah, that's a nice hat, but what's so special about the pattern? I know you don't have to swatch for it. That's one of the main selling points, I suppose, for it. And but when I actually started knitting it, it's such a calming, soothing project, because you're not worrying about gauge. I think that's one thing. You're not worrying about how it's going to fit. Because you can actually check your gauge as you're going along, and you can adjust it in the increases that you start out with at the very beginning. And I think that's one of the things that's very calming because of that, because you know where you're going, and also because then it just becomes stocking stitch. And it's a reasonably small needle. I think it was a 3mm needle that I used. What else is good about this pattern? There are so many options for how you wear this hat, so I opted to do 2 colours, and so I'll show you how it works. Most people who are viewing this probably has seen a Musselburgh hat before. By the way, it's by Ysolda Teague, in case you haven't come across it yet, and if you're thinking of knitting it. But this is what you actually knit. So you start off with the pinhole cast on, which actually was something I learned how to do in a Stephen West knit along. I think that was in the Geogradient. That was the start of it, wasn't it? A pinhole cast on, and I think that was the first time I had ever done one. So I knew how to do it. I didn't feel intimidated by it. I know a lot of people it's fiddly. It is fiddly at the beginning, but I did it using. I don't really have a decent set of what are they called? Double pointed needles. So instead I used my magic loop, and it worked fine. So the magic loop, you're putting 4 of the it's 8 stitches to begin with. You're putting 4 on each of the needles. Yeah, so this is what I ended up with. This is Pearl Soho's linen quill. I had actually bought this for knitting the Go Dynamo shawl. I didn't show you my second one. I didn't show you my collection of yarns. So I'm going to show you them quickly because it's worth showing again. These absolutely beautiful yarns that I have for this, and I have a whole load of options. I bought a good few skeins. I think I bought 6 altogether. I like to buy a good few at the same time, so I don't have to spend money on shipping several times, because I don't really have a decent local yarn shop. So so this is the colour that I bought. I knit one of the colours for my Musselburgh. It's called River Rock, and it's merino singles. And then I have this other colour here, and I'm not sure what it's called. This is called Shield, and this is a beautiful sort of purpley colour, variegated yarn. So this could be going into my Go Dynamo. So again, I'm not doing the standard 2 colour shawl. I think that this design lends itself to really being creative with colours, and any of the shawls that I've seen on people's podcasts or online, I really like the ones where there's sort of a gradient of colour throughout, or a mix of colour, and more than 2 colours used. And for me, it's really to keep the interest going, because I find with just 2 colours it gets a bit boring. So this is a gorgeous colour which I wanted to use originally. Again, you can see I'm really gravitating towards all these beautiful blues. This one is called, let's see if I can see the name on the yarn. It's called Mineral. This is called Mineral, and this is called River Rock. And then these 2 were in a set and I don't know if they actually even had names on them. I don't think they did, you know. I don't think they had names. They were part of a summer set, so a set for knitting something summery, and that they just look so summery and so beachy. So they're the two colours that I've started off that shawl with, and the others will find their way in, but I was so tempted to use this as the Musselburgh hat colour that I went ahead with it. Oh, by the way, that's the, it's called Purple Rain. It's the hedgehog fibres silk mohair that I'm using in the Dynamo. Anyway, back to this one here. So this other colour is, or other yarn is, I showed you the last time, I used it to knit my Forever Autumn Socks by Stone Knits. So I had two 50-gram skeins of this, so I know I would have enough left to knit the second sock, which I haven't done yet, and also to knit the second half of the Musselburgh. So roughly the Musselburgh hat takes 100 grams, a little bit more if you're knitting a larger size, and now that I think about it I can't remember. I think I'm doing the adult medium or the adult small. I can't remember. It's 20. I have a 22-inch circumference for my head, so I think it's the adult medium, which takes a little bit more than 100 grams, I think. So if you're using two colours, that's fine. Anyway, 50 grams of this beautiful teal coloured yarn, which is, I was looking up actually, making a few notes before this, and couldn't remember the composition of this yarn, and it's a beautiful composition. It's 60% merino, 20% silk and 20% rami. Rami is a nettle fibre, which gives the yarn strength, so you can use it in socks, so that's why it's brilliant for sock knitting. And the silk, and it gives it this beautiful sheen. And then I was looking at their website, so it's, the name of the company is Pasquale, and they are based in Germany. A lot of their, I think they get the merino from, I think it's merino anyway, and it's from South America, from Patagonia. And but the lovely explanation for choosing the name of the yarn, it's called Pinta. Pinta is a Spanish word, and I have to just go to my notes here to double check exactly what the expression is, but it's a Spanish expression which means to look good, and it is, let's see now if I can get my glasses on. So pinta is a Spanish word used in the expression tener buen pinta, which means to look good. So I just thought that was so lovely. That was what the yarn company thought to name the yarn, because it really does look absolutely beautiful. It does look good. It's the sheen of the silk, and it is merino, and it's rami, so it's a beautiful blend of yarns, and it's absolutely perfect both for socks, as you can see, and for the Musselburgh hat. So I'm actually going to try this on for you now, because it has become my go-to hat. I've knit a few hats, not very many, and I know that people say, I think there's a perception out there that hat knitting is easier than sweater knitting, but actually I find it really hard to get. I've never really knit a hat that I have always wanted to wear, because it's always been too big or too not the right shape, or it's really hard to get a hat that works. So anyway, this one is can be worn in either way. I can have either the teal out, or I can have this side out, and I'm just going to put it on and show you the way I have been wearing it. So I've been wearing it, it's quite slouchy actually, so I knit mine to have 22 inches in length altogether, so there's a bit of a slouch at the back, but I like that. I like to have a slouch. I don't really like to have it too close to my head, and I don't have a mirror at the moment, but I think that you can probably see the I like to wear it with a little bit of the teal poking through, and that's my gorgeous Musselburgh hat that I really, really love. I don't know what I look like. Anyway, because I'm just talking into a camera, I don't have a screen which shows me what I look like. But you get the picture. It's a really, really nice design. It's a gorgeous hat. I can see why people go mad for it. I see why it's such a successful design, and I highly recommend knitting one. And actually, as they say, if you knit one of these, you immediately want to knit a second one. which I've started. I have started to knit a second, and I'm going to just show you what it looks like if I actually do that. I have another hat, and I can swap it the other way around. There's so many variables or variations to how you might wear this hat. But what is amazing about it is it fits me so well. I mean, it really actually, I think I worked out that it's 17.5 inches, the finished measurement, and I have a 22-inch head, so it's like, how many is that? 4.5 inches, is it? 4.5 inches of negative ease. So, sorry all of you people who work in centimetres, that's about, is it 12 centimetres of negative ease. So I just love the fact that you can have a little bit peeking out, or you can have a fold over edge, and you can do it the other way around as well. It's just a beautiful hat, really, really gorgeous. So and actually I think another reason why it's a very successful product for me, an end product, the end product is great. The knitting experience is really enjoyable. You get to showcase beautiful yarns like this variegated Life in the Long Grass yarn, and of course the sheen of the silk. You just get, and there's so many options you can put in, you know, different colours down here to give you different fold over colours. You can do stripes, and I want to do a striped one. That's definitely in my head, and I've bought yarn for another one. But you can also make this from scraps of yarn. This was like 50 grams of each, to give you a beautiful, beautiful hat. And it's also, I suppose, not too warm, because we don't really get freezing cold weather. So that's why I can wear it without the fold up. I know I've heard a lot of people talking about you get 4 layers of fingering weight yarn together if you fold it up, which is great for your ears if you're living in a snowy country, but it's never really that cold here. So I'll show you another whip, which is the same thing again. So this is my second Musselburgh hat, and this is being knit. These colours, I'll show you this second colour, that's going to be a navy and red. And these colours are actually chosen by Ruben. So Ruben is my son, who is actually turning 14 at Christmas, which I can't believe. So he's very cool at the moment, so doesn't really wear any of the sweaters that I had knit for him. He's gone beyond that stage. But he does love his half and half triangles wrap, which he uses as a blanket, and it's always wrapped around him on Saturday mornings when he's in his pyjamas and he's playing on his computer or whatever, and he has it in bed and stuff. And so he does love the feel of knitting, doesn't like to be seen outside wearing it necessarily. But this is something that he picked up when he saw my Musselburgh hat. He said, "Wow, Mum, you could actually make one of those, you could sell those." And I said, "Yeah, I could." Well, exactly, they look really nicely finished. So I'm going to tell you more about his in just a second. Hi again, everyone. I was just talking to you there about the Musselburgh, so I just wanted to show you once again very quickly the one I'm knitting for my son, and this one is in Pearl Soho's Linen Quill Red Poppy, and the navy is one that's been in my stash for about 3 or 4 years, I'd say, at this stage. This is a Kremke sole wool, and it's called Lazy Linen, and it's 90% I think merino and 10% linen. So this is a lovely combination. Because there's linen in the Pearl Soho. Obviously, this, I think it's 35% linen, is it? I think it's a fair bit of linen in it, and there's Peruvian Highland wool in it as well. Yes, so this is going to be a gorgeous Musselburgh hat, and I think he's going to really enjoy wearing it. He chose these colours anyway, so he actually wanted an orange, but I didn't have an orange in my stash, but this is actually close. He reckoned this is close enough to orange, and he was looking for a black as well, but I didn't have a black. And it was literally whatever I had in the stash that I was saying, look, we'll find something that suits. So that's his hat, and it's such an easy, relaxing knit, and that doesn't take very long either. So yeah, so that's the Musselburgh hat, and that's my second work in progress and my second finished object. And now I have another finished object to show you, which is these beautiful socks here. This is a pattern by Casey Rudenok, I think is her name. I just have to check my notes. And this is called the Buffalo Socks. Yeah, Buffalo Socks by Casey Rudenok. And she, I think, runs or owns the yarn shop in Belfast called Hank's Yarn Parlour. And I saw, coming up on Instagram very recently, I saw a call for a test knit for these socks. And I have never ever done a test knit before, and I thought to myself, this is my chance because it's a sock, and a sock won't take me very long. And as you probably know, if you've watched my last podcast, I'm really into knitting colourwork socks at the moment. And I just thought, yeah, this is something that I have a lot of experience with, and I could probably, hopefully, add to the test knit in terms of assessing the way the pattern's written, and how it works out for me, and how how a colourwork sock goes together, I suppose, and the sort of pitfalls of working in small circumference colourwork. And yeah, so I decided I'd go for it, and I have to say it is a beautiful pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it. I am going to knit another one in a different colour because Casey very generously offered yarn support for the test knit, and I bought some yarn, which I'm going to show you in a second, from her shop. And I have to say that having found Hank's Yarn Parlour, I think I said this the last time, this is where I bought, the first purchase I made from that shop was the small circumference circulars that I bought the last time that I was talking to you, or before the last time. And I have to say that just the stock of yarn in her shop, and also the needles, is just the best on this island, I think. I haven't come across any other shop on the island of Ireland that stocks so much of the yarn that I particularly like to knit with. So everybody's different, but there's such a range of really beautiful yarns, and they were the only shop that I could find that have the small circumference needles in 2.25mm size, which I need to knit with because I have a very loose gauge generally, and a lot of these patterns call for 2.5, and I always need to go down a size, which I did for these socks. So these are knit on 2.25mm needles, small circumference needle, and I actually think it's amazing that you just using this thing here, which is the small circumference Chowgu 2.25, that you can create something like this. It's magical, it really is. I just think knitting is amazing, and that you can make a beautiful finished object that's comfortable to wear, that's practical, and that's like a little work of art, and using just yarn and this and a needle like this. So I'll show you what yarns I used. So basically, even though there was yarn support, I was sort of waiting for that to arrive, and then I thought, well, I'll see what I have in my stash, and I came across these. Again, it's the same Pearl Soho linen quill, so this has found its way into many projects now. I had 3 skeins of this 100 gram skeins, and it's still going into different projects. So you use very little of each colour for this. I think it's 100 metres of each of the main and the contrasting, and 30 metres of the heels, heel toe and cuff. So this is Pearl Soho's linen quill. This is the Kremka Soul Wool Lazy Linen, also been in my stash for about 4 years. And this one is the, let's see if I can remember it now. I forget. It's a German yarn company that I knit the toadstool socks from Stone Knits out of. And I had reckoned I would have enough left if I put 100 grams into this, because this is about 100 metres, this is about 400 metres, it's 100 grams. I bought this when I was on holidays in doing the Dales Way, the Yorkshire Dales in England last summer. Not the summer just gone, but the one before, 2023. and it was just a little souvenir purchase, and it's turned out to be a really nice ball of yarn that I wasn't sure what I was going to do with. But I just love having yarns in my stash that, you know, they could be there for a year or 2 years, and then all of a sudden you have a project where you need this colour and you need this weight of yarn, and it's ideal and it's just brilliant. You have a little stash there that you can draw on. So those 3 colours are what I'm using for the buffalo socks, and they're called buffalo socks because apparently this is called buffalo plaid, which I didn't know that. And it's just a gorgeous little design. So I knit the adult medium, and I knit it on 2.25mm needles, and I thought to myself, this is going to be quite tight, especially with colourwork. But they are tight to get on at the moment, but I haven't blocked them yet, so I'm hoping but they fit really well. I mean, and they're not stretched across my foot when they get onto my foot. It's getting colourwork over your heel sometimes can be a bit tricky, because it tends to be quite tight, but I'm sure that when I block it, it'll relax out a little bit more. But they're extremely well fitting whenever they're on my foot. So that is the sock designed by Casey Rudenok in testing at the moment. So hopefully that will be released soon. She has a pattern for a toque or a toque. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. The Canadian word for a hat. She has one of those called buffalo toque on Ravelry, and when I saw it I just thought, oh my god, it is real lumberjack design in those colours. So I'm wondering what it's gonna, and that's what drew me to it as well, this sort of outback, you know, Canadian sort of woodsman style attire. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of wood chopping at the moment for my log burner, which I just installed this year. It's very exciting. It's really coming into its own in the winter now. I'm really enjoying having a stove, a solid fuel stove, and I am doing a lot of sawing up of old timber that actually came out of an old lean-to roof, that timber that was really unusable, but can be cut up for use in the fire. So I feel like these would be perfect socks for cutting wood. But I'm wondering what they're going to look like in the different colours. So I'm just going to go straight into the yarns that I bought with the very generous yarn support from Casey in Hank's Yarn Parlour in Belfast, and this is gorgeous. This is such happy mail that I got on Friday, which is 2 days ago. Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, I really did well in choosing the colours and the yarns. I meant to tell you actually the list of yarns that the shop supplies that I really love to have them on the island of Ireland, because even though with Northern Ireland being in the UK and after Brexit, I know there were difficulties for businesses up there in terms of shipping to the south of Ireland. Even though we're on the same island, there was issues with customs, but Hank's Yarn Parlour have overcome that, which is really, really brilliant, and it means that I don't have to pay customs, and yet I can get yarns there that I would normally have bought from the UK. So the types of yarns, they have fibre spates, they have Issachar, they have Jamieson and Smith, they have John Arbon, they have Holsgarn. I mean, all of these fabulous yarns that nowhere else that I know of in Ireland stocks them, and so it's really, really good to have discovered this shop. I'll have to make a trip up to Belfast as well. My nephew has just started studying up there. He's studying aeronautical engineering in Queen's University, Belfast. So there'll have to be a visit up to him, and I can go and actually see the shop. So yeah, I mean, the whole southern thing in Ireland, I might as well just give you my own background of our understanding of the north. I was born in the 70s, so all throughout the 70s and the 80s, what was called the Troubles, the essentially, yeah, difficulties, the war essentially that was going on between the Catholics and at least the minority Protestant and the majority Catholic. It started out as a civil rights movement in the late 60s, in 1969. John Hume would have been at the forefront of that. So it was really civil rights for Catholics in Ireland, in the north, who were discriminated against. And yeah, so it was a very dark time for the North, and we rarely ever went there. So I would have known all about the rest of the country. I would have travelled all around the rest of the country. The first time I ever went into the North was when I crossed the border going up to Donegal from Dublin I studied archaeology for 1 year at third level in UCD, and we were travelling to Donegal and we had to cross the border to get there, even though, well, it was the quickest way. I mean, you could go around and up through Sligo without crossing the border to get to Donegal, but travelling from Dublin, it made sense to cross the border at 2 points to get into Donegal, which is, even though it's in the north of the island, is part of the Republic. So I remember being terrified, actually. I probably was about 18 years of age. I was my first year in college, second year in college, so I was 19. And I remember this guy in military clothing with a machine gun got onto the bus, and when we were crossing the border at the checkpoint, walked up and down the length of the bus and got off again. It was absolutely terrifying. And looking out the window then, going across, you could see more military personnel in the bushes, you know, just manning the border point. And like it's just, that year would have been 1990, I think. It was probably 1990. So even that recently, you know, the North was cut off from the rest of the south of Ireland, and there was a lot of tension. So thankfully, since the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, that has, you know, that awful tension is gone, and as far as I'm aware, you know, things are thriving up north. You know, I have visited on holidays several times since then. You know, it really has opened up. There's no border anymore. You can cross wherever you want. There's no checkpoints, no nothing. And there was a fear with Brexit that all that might come back, and thankfully that hasn't. And there's no hard border. And so we have, you know, open units. Commerce has opened up. The place is absolutely beautiful to visit from a tourist perspective. It's really stunning. I was on the North Antrim coast in the early 2000s. I went on holidays there. I now have my nephew studying in Queen's University and will probably visit. And so yeah, it's and I have been several times since also to visit architectural heritage projects up there, because that's pretty much most of my work. And work as a building conservation consultant. So I have a huge interest in architectural heritage, and the north of Ireland has some really good examples of work in that area. Yes, so I've climbed the Mourne Mountains in County Down. So yeah, I hope I've got that county right. I think it is County Down. So yeah, the north has so much to offer us, and you know, it's really only had a chance to open up since 1998, which, now that I think about it, is that, how many years ago is that now? A long time ago. It seems very recent to me. And having grown up in the 70s when things were so different there, it's really great to see that everything has moved on. Anyway, that's just a little bit of personal memories from of the north, and but many great holidays spent there since, on the North Antrim coast and in in the mountains of Mourne. So the yarns that I got from Hank's Yarn Parlour are absolutely stunning. Look at these. So this is a yarn called Inspiring Yarns, and I just wrote a little few notes on it because it is a hand-dyed yarn company that are based in County Down, actually, and they are I'm going to have to get the glasses out again for this. I can't read anything anymore without them. So this is called Smooth Sock, and it is 75% merino, 25% nylon, 212 meters to 50 grams, so fingering weight yarn. And it is, so the Inspiring Yarns are a social enterprise based in County Down, designed to reduce isolation and improve mental health through yarn and textile based crafts. So they are producing this absolutely stunning. So I'm thinking of possibly making a Musselburgh hat out of these two beautiful yarns, and that would make a Musselburgh, so 50 and 50. I hope. For my size anyway, I think it is just 100 grams. I didn't weigh the hat actually, which I should have done after I finished it. So that's some of the yarn that I got. I think that's going to be a Musselburgh. And then these two, absolutely beautiful. Look here, I'm going for this colour again. This blue is just, it's called Deep Aqua, I think. It's Deep Aqua, yeah. And this one is called Burnished. These are Fiberspace's Vivacious 4-ply. And I remember buying Vivacious 4-ply actually, which was then called Maple Syrup, which I think might be the same colour or very close to it. Burnished, it's called now. And these are 75-25, I think. Are they? Or no, they're 100%. I forget now. Oh, they're 100% actually superwash merino, and they're high twist. So I think can be used for socks. And they are 365 meters per 100 grams. So these are going to go into the a pair of the buffalo socks for the test knit as well. I just have to check that they're okay for socks, but I think they are. And I got to go for the heels and toes and cuffs. Contrasting colour is it's called, oh yeah, this is Fiberspace as well, sorry. This is a Fiberspace Fraochknits socks, yeah. And it is 75% superwash merino wool and 25% nylon, 212 meters to 50 grams. So this is a 50 gram, and this colour is quartz. It's the closest I could get to a sort of a beigey colour in that yarn. So these three colours then will be going together into another pair of those socks, and I'm going to have a lot of yarn left over because these are like 365 meters and I only need 100 meters. So I might be able to make a Musselburgh hat, would I? I would. I'd be able to make a Musselburgh hat out of these two as well if I wanted to, with the leftover yarn. So you can see I'm completely obsessed now with Musselburgh hats. This is what happens. We don't live in a cold country, so I don't know whether I need them all, but if Ruben likes them, that'll be good. So yeah. Hi again everyone. I am just very nearly finished talking about all my knitting. It's been a long one this time. I have no more whips actually. Well, I have one thing that has been a long-standing whip, I suppose, which I thought I'd talk about it to you today. And I'm thinking of picking it up again because it's a really fast little knit and it's perfect time of the year for it. So this is an unblocked fingerless glove called a Fasttrack mitten. I think they're called the Fasttrack mittens by the Midnight Architect. And I'm going to try this one on for you. So you can see there's a sort of a ribbing on the inside of the palm, wide ribbing, and then on the outside there are these, it's sort of hard to see in this yarn because it's variegated, but there are these lovely sort of diagonal stripes of purl stitches against diagonals of knit stitches, and it's just a really, really simple pattern. It's a fingerless glove, so it works like this, and that is the design. And when I first knit this up, I thought, oh dear, you really can't see the pattern because the yarn is variegated, and I sort of put it away and didn't do anything about it since then. And actually I picked it out there recently and I thought this would be really nice. It would be really nice to have these gloves. And when I looked at it again, and this often happens when you put away a project and you go back to it, you realise actually it's really nice. It's gorgeous. It doesn't really matter that you can't actually see the pattern too easily. You know, it's just a really nice mitten. And I just want to talk to you a tiny bit about the yarn then. The yarn is a very special yarn that was given to me by my very good friend Barbara, who has moved back to Australia, who used to be my knitting buddy, and he used to live very locally to me, and we used to meet up for knitting. So yeah, she's gone back to live in her home place in Australia, and on one of her trips back there, when she came back to Ireland, she gave me this beautiful Black Wattle Yarn Company DK weight yarn, and I think the colourway is called I always forget it because it doesn't really remind me of the colour. It's called Outlast, so I'm not sure what the reference is to the colour, but there you go. It's a beautiful sort of set of autumnal colours, and what makes this yarn so special is the fact that it has silk. It's blue face Leicester and silk, two really beautiful shiny yarns, and that's what's so jewel-like about it. It's really, really stunning yarn. And I had started knitting, I did a swatch, that's more than a swatch I suppose. I had started knitting, I'm not sure which is the right side and the wrong, I think this is the right side. I'd started knitting with it as a contrast in colour in Woolly Wormhead's, one of her patterns, and I forget the name of this pattern now. I can hopefully put it up on the screen when I'm editing. And just looking at this again today, I mean, I really didn't really like it in the end. The orange colour, I think this is the Shetland wool, a DK weight, and I think it was all too much, and I'm wondering now if it would work really well with a navy. These sort of orangey colours with a contrast. The contrast colour is too close, I think, to the main colour here, or to the main colour is too close to the contrasting colour, and I'm wondering if I used a navy colour or a blue against this, maybe it would work. But I think these are stunning designs by Woolly Wormhead. These where she uses short rows to make these flames come up on the hat. So anyway, there were two sort of unfinished projects that I had abandoned, but I think I'm going to go ahead and knit the second one of these mittens, and I may even have enough left over to do a Woolly Wormhead hat, to do the contrasting colour. I might swatch again for it and see does it work with a navy. Anyway, that's just a little aside. And then my future plans, I have two projects which I am hoping to cast on, and they are, one is a garment, one is a sweater, and I'm going to be using Plutelope, this gorgeous stuff here. I have a big stash of Plutelope because I bought a load of it when I bought some a couple of years ago, because it was such good value, and it was coming from Iceland. I was buying it directly from Istex, the factory in Iceland, and because of the shipping costs I just wanted to get a big load of it. And I've been dying to cast on another one of these. I wore a sweater recently by Jennifer Steingass. I forget the name, but it's on my previous podcast, I think. And yeah, I really love that sweater, and I started to wear it even though I had put it to one side and didn't really like it originally. But this time I'm knitting a colourwork sweater by the Petite knitter. And it is, I have I haven't got very much to show you. It's literally just the collar. The ribbing for the collar has been started, and yeah, so what's the name of it? It's called the Karibou sweater by the Petite knitter. And I had a few notes there. What was I going to say about it? It's beautiful. I love all of the Petite knitters patterns actually. I sort of want to knit them all. I find it very hard to choose which one I'm going to do. Yeah, it's just called Karibou, and I'm knitting it on 3.5mm needles, and it's just a fabulous colourwork sweater, and in gorgeous colours. The colours here are dark woods, and I think this is their white. So I really sort of thought about maybe ordering some beige to go, or some sort of more off-white, like a beige colour to go with the dark woods. And I decided against it just because I am trying to stop ordering yarn because I just use what I have. I've ordered a fair bit recently between the stuff from Hank's Yarn Parlour and the Life in the Long Grass that I ordered for, that I bought for doing the Mystery Knit Along. But I had spent a lot of the year not actually buying any yarn, so I don't feel too bad about that. And anyway, it is my hobby. I absolutely love having a lot of colours actually, and having a load of different options to choose from. And I have worked through quite a bit of my stash this year, so I'm looking forward to having another really lightweight Plutelope. Plutelope is so beautiful. It's, as you can see, it's an unspun yarn if you're not familiar with it. It's an unspun yarn that is really, I won't say cheap, it's very good value. It's a beautiful quality yarn. It's Icelandic wool, and it knits up so well. It doesn't break that easily, even though it is unplied, unspun. And it's one of the sort of stronger unspun yarns, I think, because of the length of the staple in the Icelandic wool. and so it knits up really nicely into a very thin, lightweight fabric that costs very little, and it is so warm. So I'm just really excited to be starting a sweater in this yarn again, and to have a beautiful Karibou motif, and perfect for Christmas time. Hopefully I'll have it ready. I have no idea. I might end up knitting it over my Christmas holidays. I'm hoping to take 2 weeks off work over Christmas, because last year I was under pressure with some study that I was doing, and yeah, I'm hoping to have a really nice break this year, because it's been a busy year work-wise. And so that's that done. That will be my probably Christmas project, or my December project, to get me into the mood for Christmas. So I'm not doing any gift knitting, but I might change my mind about that. I haven't put myself under any pressure anyway, and yeah, we'll see where we go with that one. But the other thing that I've been wanting to knit for ages, actually, where have I put the that is missing now. Oh, it's behind me here. I'll put it up here so it will be easy to access. So I don't know if you remember this hot water bottle cover that I knit last year. This is it was sort of the thing was self-drafted, but the colourwork design is by Eleanor Moore Tenson, and it's from her carousel cowl. It's a Dala horse on a carousel, and I really loved the motif so much that I thought, wow, that would be fantastic to use as a hot water bottle cover. So this is a little mini hot water bottle that belongs to my son, and he has used this non-stop since I knit it, which I think was this time last year. Actually, I was knitting this one, and there isn't a sign of pilling on it. It hasn't changed. This is such hard working yarn. It's the Ulcentrum. This is why it's my favourite yarn, actually. I know I go on about Ulcentrum a lot, and it is just one of the best. I think it's because it's the Gotland, it's that shiny Gotland, beautiful look to the fibre. It's colour work beautifully because it's a rustic woolly yarn. It's a beautiful weight, it's a sport weight, so it's not too thick and it's not too thin, and it lasts so long, and in spite of the use that this has got. So this gets used every day, every evening going to bed, and so that's what the yarn is that I'm hoping to. So all year I said I have to knit myself one of those, because every evening when I feel this, I'm envious. I think, oh, I wish I had this on my hot water bottle cover. I have a sort of a synthetic nylon-y thing that was bought with the hot water bottle, which is, it's okay, but it's not really that. It's not that comforting, especially now that I'm just really fussy about fabrics and materials now that I've started knitting or got really into knitting. So I just want everything to be really nice, good quality, natural fibres, really. And if something isn't a natural fibre, I can tell instantly, and I don't particularly get much joy out of it. So this is full of life and full of love, and yeah, I just thought I'd show that to you again, and I'll show you what I'm thinking of knitting. So I thought to myself, well, I don't know if I really want to use, even though I love this colourwork motif, I don't know whether I really want to use that again for my hot water bottle, which is a bigger bottle. Actually, mine is a big size, and I'm thinking of using colourwork motifs that I have in patterns that I've already bought. So this is my Twigs sweater, which I've shown you on the podcast a few times before, and this is by Junko Okamoto, Japanese designer. One of my favourite sweaters, even though this is also knit in Ulcentrum and a sport weight yarn was called for, but it is so woolly, and so perhaps for this gauge, this particular choice of yarn wasn't necessarily the best. It's quite it's quite warm. It's because it's such a heavy gauge. Sorry, not a heavy gauge. I can't remember how many stitches. 28 stitches or something to 28 stitches to 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So it ends up giving you a very dense fabric. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a dense fabric, but I don't wear it that often because it's very warm, but I really love it. And it is the the colourwork motifs on this are my favourite, I think, of any colourwork pattern that I've ever knit. And I was thinking, oh, I could actually incorporate these into a hot water bottle cover for myself. So that is my plan. I'm going to knit using Old Centrum yarns. I have a whole load of Old Centrum colours actually. I remember at one stage buying nearly one of nearly every colour. Not every colour, but I bought a whole range of colours. So I'm not sure whether I'll use sort of like neutrals like this, or I might use colours. I was thinking of doing a grey, dark and light grey and white, so we'll see. But that's my plan. And so what I do when I'm knitting, if you're thinking of doing this yourself, literally all I do to self-draft the bottle is, at the hot water bottle cover, is I cast on a certain number of stitches at the bottom that I think is going to be the right size for the width of the bottle. Once I have that number of stitches cast on, I start to increase every second row until I get to the width of the bottle, and then I carry on up, and when I get to the top then just decrease, and I knit ribbing, and I think I did a third of the width for the shoulders and a third for the bottle opening, and knit that in ribbing. And you can get the way you get the bottle in is you just empty it of water obviously, and you can fold and scrunch up the bottle, and it goes down through this opening here, and then it opens out. So there's no opening or buttons or anywhere to get the bottle in anywhere else. I'm hoping that's going to work with the bigger bottle actually. I'm not sure, I might need to make a wider opening. But that's literally how I did it, and I just calculated, I suppose, when I knew the number of stitches that the width of the bottle in terms of the stitch count for this particular yarn that I'm using, I was able to figure out what portion of the colourwork chart I could use. And it actually just magically worked out that it's pretty much, I think, the chart, one repeat. I may have left out a few stitches, or I can't remember whether I left some of the motifs out, but that is literally all I did. So it's very simple. I know there are lots of amazing hot water bottle patterns out there, but you sort of don't really need a pattern. You can make up your own, and you can use patterns that you've already paid for in terms of reuse of the colourwork motifs, or if you have any books that have colourwork motifs in them, I have a few of those as well. You can just play around with them, and it is one of the nicest things to have. It's just, I love when it's something that I've knit gets used over and over and over again, particularly when it's your child, and because Ruben isn't wearing sweaters that I've knit him anymore, it's so lovely to see that he still has his hot water bottle that he loves. He has his half and half wrap, and which he uses as a blanket, and he's going to have a Musselburgh hat now, so it's really nice to be able to provide he is very knit worthy still, in spite of the fact that he doesn't like to wear the jumpers out. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it. So I am going to move on to the section on the Ogham script, and I hope you have enjoyed so far, and thank you very much for being here. If you've lasted this long, I hope you're all enjoying your knitting at this fabulous time of the year for our craft, for sitting in the long dark nights with the fire on and knitting to our heart's content, and producing beautiful things for our family and for ourselves, yeah, just it was a really beautiful beautiful craft. So thank you so much for all of your likes and subscribes, and please if you haven't subscribed yet, just please hit the subscribe button. It's really easy, and it costs you nothing. You can also hit the notifications bell, so that you don't miss any of my videos. And finally, if you want to buy me a coffee, there's a Kofi link in this, the description below. And thanks so much. I will see you if you want to carry on to listen to the next section. You're very welcome to. See you then. Okay, thank you. Hi again everyone, and I am just going to finish off today's podcast by looking at the fourth section of our fourth part in the series of the Ogham Alphabet. And for those of you who haven't seen these before, the Ogham Alphabet is an ancient Irish alphabet and it was used to write down the old Irish language, and it's not known when it was actually invented or discovered or brought into being, and we have the knowledge that we have of it now today is from medieval manuscripts. I take my information, as usual, always from this book by Niall McCoitir called Ireland's Trees, Myths, Legends and Folklore, and it is a brilliant book, and there's a whole section, this whole chapter on the Ogham Alphabet at the back, so that's where I'm getting all my information. I really like the way he writes about the alphabet, the significance of trees, that it's not actually, so each letter is not specifically named after a specific tree. Some of them are, but all letters are associated with a type of tree, and by using there are these things called I forget the word now. Anyway, they're like poems in the manuscripts, which are sayings, or there's a sort of a cryptic clue, if you like, to each letter word and to its meaning, and all of them can be associated with trees. And Niall McCoitir actually shows how that can be done, because some of the scholars have refuted the fact that the letters are actually all trees, or all representing a tree, but I think it's really clear from the way Niall McCoitir writes about it. And I think this is a change in the way academics are starting to think about the alphabet, if I'm not wrong, because I'm not an expert. I'm just reading his book. That they have not always agreed that trees were that each letter had a meaning that was associated with a specific tree. But from my previous podcasts that I've done on this, you can see that there's a really strong argument for this, and that it's very much the Irish way of thinking anyway, that we think obliquely about things. We don't actually think linearly. Things are not linear, and they're not necessarily ordered, and they're not necessarily obvious. We think about things, I think, quite laterally. This could be for a whole host of reasons. It's a cultural thing anyway, with Irish people, and it's something that I sort of love about Irish culture, that it's very different from the sort of Anglo-Saxon, Germanic way of thinking. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just a different way of being and thinking. And so our poetry and our literature and and coming back to the Ogham script, all of these rely on a sort of poetic view of the world and a poetic view of life. And I suppose anyhow, the tree was a huge importance. All trees were of huge importance to all ancient cultures. So it's not just ancient Irish culture. This is across the board, I'm sure, across the world, because it was a time when people really depended on nature and were very close to nature. And I think that it's so lovely for us now to tap into this ancient wisdom again, when we really do. I think it's really time that we really do need to reconnect, and in whatever small way we can. And I think that the resonance of this script for me and for a lot of people is actually part of this new way of looking at the world, and a realisation, sort of a waking up, a realisation that actually, we've taken it for granted, and we're moving farther and farther away from it in our Western culture particularly, and it's so good to re-tap into it and reconnect with it and get back into it again, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I just wanted to mention a podcast which I've been watching recently, which I think if you're interested in this subject, you'd really love, and it is called Story Crow, and it is a YouTube channel. I don't know the name of the guy who actually runs the channel, but the name of it is Story Crow, and he is brilliant at understanding and talking about ancient mythology, myths and legends associated with trees. And he also has a series on the Ogham Alphabet. So if you want to look further into this, definitely look at Story Crow. I'll put up his podcast name here. He's absolutely brilliant. And he also connects not just ancient Irish mythology, but he looks at Norse mythology and other European mythologies and connects them all together. So it is a fascinating channel to watch. I've been really enjoying listening to him. He also is a great storyteller. So anyway, to get back to where I was today, talking about this fourth sort of instalment of the Ogham Alphabet. And this time we're looking at the vowels, the Ogham vowels. So there are 20 letters altogether, and 15 of those were the consonants. And actually each of these sets of consonants are divided into 5, and I don't know if you've seen a pattern, and I actually should put up an overall view of the whole alphabet together, because you can see there's a pattern with each of the 5 letters that they will all, the first 5 I think, well I can't remember now, they all have the notches going horizontally and out to one side of the iris, or the side of the stone, and in the next set they might have them going to the left, or they have them going diagonally this way or diagonally this way. So, and then each of them has 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 of these notches. So it's very ordered, very there's a system, there's a very definite system to this, that's easy to remember as well. And so you can see that for yourselves. I'll put up a picture I mean, this is something that I'm all sort of always also at the same time as you discovering as we go along, so it's interesting for me too. So the first of the vowels is A, and the tree associated with this is alum, and this name derives from the Latin palma or palm, and the early Irish had no P sound, so the initial P would have been dropped in the transition into this language, into the Irish language. So it's called alum instead of palm. Alum is associated with the pine tree, and both trees, both the pine and the palm, are close mythologically speaking. So it makes alum a suitable alternative name for the pine. In a classical tradition, the palm tree, was seen as a tree of rebirth and fertility, and there's evidence to show that the pine was seen in a similar light in Ireland and in Northern Europe generally. And I've said this before, that in Ireland the burning of splints of our logs of pine wood was a custom associated with Christmas and midwinter. So the alum, and so the letters of the vowels, the vowel letters, start back again at the beginning of the calendar year, which is midwinter or winter. Winter started on the 1st of November in the Celtic calendar, so that would have been Samhain. The name for the month of November in Irish and in modern Irish language is Samhain. So there's a deep-rooted connection still in the modern Irish language to the Celtic calendar. So the letters went from, the 15 consonants went from midwinter all the way through the seasons back to midwinter again, and we're starting the vowels now with midwinter, but there are only 5 vowels, so there's a quicker succession through the seasons in the vowels, and you'll see that in my description of their origins now. So the burning of the pine, this is something that I am not familiar with. It's not a custom that continues, certainly in this part of the country, but I think it does down in parts of West Cork in some of the Gaeltacht regions. The Gaeltacht region is a region in Ireland where the language Irish is still spoken. Is spoken regularly in everyday use. Everybody learns Irish in school, the Irish language, and there's a real upsurge in interest in the language, but it's still something that was forced upon us in the founding of the state in the 1930s, the founding following the independence. It became a compulsory subject in schools, which actually was sort of not a great thing in one way, because people were sort of forced to learn it, and it was associated with a lack of progress. If you spoke Irish, we were sort of brainwashed into thinking that actually it was a backward language and it was something that we didn't need if we were going to progress in the modern world, in the world of commerce, in the world of international affairs. And it's really awful that was the case, because it's such a rich language, and I'm only really I loved it. I was lucky that my dad was a speaker of the language. He was a fluent speaker of Irish, and still is, and he would have had a huge interest in it and passed that interest on to us. And I was very lucky that in school I had a native Irish speaker teaching me from Connemara, and so I learned Irish as was spoken. So I was very lucky. I loved Irish poetry. I was sort of unusual, I think, at my time, and even still in secondary schools, there is a sort of a lack of interest in the language, and partially it possibly is the way the curriculum is set up, that it's really not designed to learn how to speak it, it's designed to learn the literature, and it can be a little bit heavy, and also the grammar heavy. Whereas there's a huge movement now on social media, on Instagram, on all sorts of social media platforms, where Irish is being spoken or is being taught in a much more light-hearted manner, and in a way that we can actually learn to speak it, and the emphasis on grammar and literature and all of that isn't so strong. So having said that, I do adore Irish poetry, and I love the language, and I still have only a small knowledge of it, but what I do know I absolutely love. So that's where my interest comes from, and so that's what I started off telling you what a Gaeltacht area was. So Gaeltacht, really enjoyable. So the letter A, which is Alm, so just a beautiful quote from the scholar Fergus Kelly in his survey of the trees listed in early Irish laws, quotes a line from an old Irish poem where a hermit says, "Beautiful are the pines which make music for me," and the word he uses is almi, alm. The pine being noted for the musical sound of the wind through its branches. The poetry is absolutely stunning. So the pine is symbolically associated with midwinter, and as such begins the new seasonal cycle for the vowels. So the second vowel then is O, and the word is and this letter is associated with the ash tree. Is the ancient Irish word for the ash tree. So that's one of the letters where the name of the tree is actually the same name as the letter, which isn't always the case. The ash tree is associated with birth, growth and fertility, so is appropriately placed seasonally in late spring or early summer when its foliage is at its most lush. The next letter then is U, and the word for the letter is Ur, and there are several meanings. It can be fresh, moist, clay or earth, and the only tree or shrub not linked to any of the other letter names is most likely candidate, and that is elm. So really this one is a very obscure one because it's very difficult to pin one particular tree onto this word, or meaning fresh or new or moist or clay or earth, and so it's reckoned that it's elm is the tree that is associated with this letter. After the alder, the elm is the native tree most notably suited to withstand moist or watery conditions, and the elm is also an important mythological tree, most noted for the richness of its foliage and sap. A strongly growing sap-filled tree is even today still known in Irish as cran ur. So cran is the word for tree. So it's still there today, cran ur, a sap-filled tree. And seasonally, the time of greatest growth of foliage is the early summer around May time. So this will be a suitable time to place the elm. It's also, it's correctly placed. So elm is the tree associated with the letter U, or. The letter E then, edad. The old name for aspen is idad or idat, and this is very close to edad. The word ohms, that was the thing I was looking for earlier, these clues, the word ohms, the clues in the medieval manuscripts as to the meanings of the words and which trees might be associated with them. So the word ohms helped to clear up any confusion between the word for aspen and the word ida, which means cherry. So it could be cherry because the cherry tree has a very similar sounding word in Irish. They describe this letter as Erigid Fid, most discerning tree, which refers to the aspen's reputation since ancient times for sensitivity. The aspen has unusually flattened leaf stalks, causing its leaves to flutter in the slightest breeze, giving rise to the expression to tremble like an aspen. And to the later, it's also a reference to the later Irish name Criach. So that's incredible actually. That word is the word Criach, which means to shake or to quiver, is the word for an aspen. The aspen was believed to tremble because it was aware of the other world and was therefore also aware of the approach of death or misfortune. Another word, come on carrots, exchange of friends, most probably refers to the constant whispering of the aspen's leaves, being like the lowered intimate talk of friends. Another word, so it's another clue to the connection between the meaning of the word that's given to this letter, and so which tree that represents is Bráthar Behi, which is the brother of the birch. So the birch tree is the very first letter consonant of the Ogham alphabet. So the brother of birch is explained by the fact that the aspen is found in many of the same habitats as birch, such as rocky mountainsides and the edge of forests. The two trees are also not dissimilar in appearance. Symbolically, the aspen can be associated with autumn and the dying of the year, placing it next in position in the seasonal cycle. So we've had so far spring for A, we had midwinter for Alan, we had spring for Ohm, which is O, we had summer for Ur, which is U, and now Edad or aspen, we have the letter E, which is in the autumn. The final letter of the vowels is Idad, which means yew, Y-E-W, the yew tree. Although this word is similar to the early Irish word for both the cherry and the aspen, this word appears to be an early artificial variation of the Irish word for yew, Ibar. The yew tree's association with death places it seasonally at the festival of Samhain, the time of death, and it makes it the natural choice to end the alphabet. So there are the 5 vowels, and there are supplementary letters then called forfeda, and these I'm going to look at in the next podcast. So that's it for today, the 5 vowel letters. Hi again everyone, I got cut off there at the very end just as I was finished talking about the Ogham alphabet, and I just wanted to finally say goodbye and thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast, and if you have, leave a comment below, let me know what you're up to, what you're knitting, what your knitting plans are, just enjoy the knitting for the next lovely while. It'll probably be the wintry evenings, it'll probably be the middle of December by the time I send out another podcast into the world, and so it'll be really Christmassy at that time, so I'm looking forward to that, and I hope you're all enjoying your knitting at the moment and your crochet and your crafting in general. So thanks very much for listening, chat to you all soon, and take care. Goodbye now.
Don't be a stranger in the night. Take a chance for some romance. Don't cover your eyes. Willow trees know you better than anyone else. It's time you let your guard down for someone like me. I'd say I'm settled and pretty calm. I don't storm in the storm. If not me, then someone like me that knows what to do and how to take care of you. But most of all, that deserves you. The sweetest red cheese I'd ever seen. You stand beside me in every dream. Angel goddess, you cover deserves you. That he deserves you. Go with someone like me. I'd say I'm settled and pretty calm. I don't storm in the storm, no. Not me, then someone like me that knows what to do and how to take care of you. But most of all, that deserves you. That he deserves you. That he deserves you.